Hi everyone, I wanted to talk to you today about the two benchmark assessments that we have mentioned to you previously, called the LENS assessment, which is a letter name sound test, and the CC3 assessment, which is a word part test. I wanted to kind of just explain to you how the test would be delivered to kids, and it's very quick and easy, and I wanted to kind of share that with you as well. So this is the LENS test. With this test, you would need a score sheet for every child. So you would copy one of these, have 20 or 30 available, so you can score every child as you're giving the test. These LENS cards, they're called, there's 5 of them in total. And the first 2 are actually kind of a kindergarten grade 1 group of tests. So the first ones would have your letters on them. So you'd have the child sit across from you, and then you'd ask them to name the letters as you point to them, and you'd start going across the top row and then go to your second and your third. So you would ask them to read the letters, and the rule of 5 applies here. So if they get any more than 5 mistakes, 5 or more mistakes, then you discontinue the test. So on card 1, if they made 5 mistakes, then you wouldn't move on to card 2. Once you have them read the letters, and let's say they're successful with reading those letters, I would then ask them if they could tell you the sound for each of those letters. If they can tell you the sound for each of those letters, successfully with less than 5 wrong, then you'd move to your LENS card 2, ask them to read the letters again, and then, better hold it up right for you, ask them to read the letters again, and as long as they get less than 5 mistakes, you'd ask them to tell you the sounds of those letters. So this is typically kindergarten grade 1. Now, if you have a grade 2 child who is struggling, you may ask them, rather than to read the letters, you just may ask them if they could tell you the sounds of the letters and then conduct the LENS 1 and 2 using sounds. The LENS 3 starts with your grade 2s. So you would use LENS 3 with grade 1s and 2s. We're only testing 2s and 3s at the beginning of the year. Grade 1s will come later in January. So LENS card 3, you would ask them to read. Now, this is where you get into word combinations of letters and sounds. So you would ask them to read the letter combinations. Well, you'd ask them to tell you the sound, of the letter combinations. The rule of 5 applies with this as well. So if they get more than 5 wrong, 5 or more wrong, then you would discontinue the test and you wouldn't move on to 4. So you would take them through all the way up to LENS 5, as long as they're being successful and can tell you all the sounds of those letter combinations. And as you're going, of course, you are marking on a score sheet. And then at the end, you would just total the amount of self-corrections or amount of errors that they've had. Now, the second test, which is your CC3 test. Now, this one is not a lexical test. This is this one is a lexical test. The first one is a sublexical. This one is a lexical test, which is word reading. So this one, you would also have a score sheet for every student. So have your pile of score sheets. And you would first go through regular words. So the first set has an R1 up to an R4, and these are all regular words. You would ask them to read these words, and as they read the words, it's the rule of 5 again. So if they have 5 or more incorrect, you wouldn't move on to the next test. Let's say on R1, they get 2 wrong, and then on R2, they get 3 wrong. Well, then you can't total that as 5. They have to have 5 or more wrong on each card. So if they read successfully and have a few mistakes on R1 and R2, but when you get to R3, you start your count over again. And if they get 5 or more, then you wouldn't continue the test to R4. If once they get 5 wrong, you're not going to move on to R4 or the next one. And then you're going to move on to irregular words. same thing. It's an irregular word. There's 4 different cards. Have them read, rule of 5. And the final one that you would use with them is the nonsense words. And so you'd call them silly words, nonsense words, and you'd tell them that they're obviously not going to be able to read all of them because they get pretty difficult, but you're going to ask them to do the very best they can. So as they read the nonsense words, you check them off on your marking sheet here as to whether they're reading them correctly or incorrectly. And if the rule of 5 applies, so as long as they have 5, or like as long as they don't have 5 or more incorrect, then you continue on to your nonsense words 2 sheet. And this one also goes up to 5. The test in total, you could probably do both the lens and the CC3 with one sit down with your children, because typically your grade 2s or 3s aren't going to get through all the way through 4 different cards of word reading, or sounds sometimes too. Maybe the sounds a little more, but definitely not the word reading. So it takes probably, maybe I would say, a maximum of 10 minutes per student. You would have to do this as a teacher individually with your students. If by chance you are working on your map test before the 17th of September, myself or Cami could also come in. We could sit and we could watch your students who are doing the map test while you kind of sneak them out as they're finishing up their map testing, and get some of this done. But anyway, we can support you in doing that. But I just wanted to share with you how quick and easy these 2 tests were. So they're not going to take too much time, but just remember we have to have them done by the 17th. And these are going to be released to the public tomorrow, September 1st. So thanks a lot, guys. If you have any questions, just give me a call.